Greetings, YouTubians, and welcome back to Wayne Sharp World, where today we are checking out some brand new Civivis that officially dropped today. It's always a great day when brands like Civivi and Kaiser and Vosteed are dropping new knives, because this year, even more so than last year, it's been one haymaker after the other. Like, these budget brands are just going all out, producing some excellent knives at very affordable prices, and we have two brand new ones to take a look at today. One is kind of a refresher on an older model, and this is a brand new model that I think a lot of people are going to like, and I was pretty blown away by it for one specific reason. But we're going to set this one off to the side and first take a look at this guy right here. And this is arguably one of the most popular, if not the most popular, Civivi knife ever. Made better with a button lock. It's the Elementum, and they really did something to this one. This is the button lock Elementum 2, so you have your regular flipper and the button lock, but check out this Damascus. This is a thing of beauty. I've said before, and I will still stand by what I've said in the past, I'm not always a fan of Damascus, but this is a little different. This I'm falling a lot harder for. Now, I would still probably take like a 14C 28N or a 154CM or a more, single steel over Damascus. But there's some times when you don't have to have the ultimate best steel ever. Sometimes you just want something that looks incredible, and that's what you have here. And this little step that Civivi's taken with their Damascus, I am an absolute huge fan of. What they did here is they have kind of a core, and I don't know if all of you a lot of you probably have not heard this, but I'm sure some of you have. I was watching a video by Knife Center last week talking about Damascus knives, and they have a little more information about Civivi's Damascus specifically. Originally everyone had thought it was just a strict 9CR based Damascus. Now it sounds like they've gotten a little more information, and that core layer, which you can see right here, whoa, here we go. What are we going? There we go. This line right here in the steel, this base layer, this is actually a combination of like 9CR 18 MOV and 10CR 15 MOV. So ultimately, the core of this is very similar to VG10. Not exact, but 10CR 15 MOV, I believe it's 15 MOV. 10CR 15 MOV is pretty comparable to VG10 from what I've read. And then 9CR 18 MOV is not quite up there with VG10. Again, I'm not a metallurgist. I just kind of go off what everyone else is reporting and what I'm hearing. But it sounds like ultimately the combination of 9CR 18 MOV and 10CR 15 MOV, somewhere in that area, is basically giving you something very comparable to VG10. So this is, in a way, kind of a VG10 layered Damascus. Now, that's a good thing. I mean, this is a plenty serviceable steel. And I would highly recommend you guys checking out the video Knife Center put up on Damascus, because I think they answered some really good questions. And David C. Anderson is just a very knowledgeable dude. So it's definitely worth checking, and you'll hear them talk more about Civivi's Damascus in general, which I thought was pretty interesting. But what they've done here from an aesthetic standpoint is really even more impressive to me, because this gives it a little more of like a very expensive look, I guess is the best way. I don't really want to say custom, but I see this type of Damascus on more stuff like Koenigs and like super high-end knives. So I love seeing this type of Damascus pattern with more of just the solid core along the edge. I love seeing that. It makes the knife look, one, cooler in my opinion, but then also it makes it look more valuable. Now, again, we're not talking a lot of money here. We're talking $82.45 for this. And a lot of you probably know the specs behind the Elementum, but we're looking at an overall length of 7.06 inches, 2.96 inch blade length, and then again that Damascus with a mix of 9CR 18 and 10CR 15 MOV core Damascus with a carbon fiber overlay on G10. So it's a nice little setup for $82.45. Civivi has done a good job at knocking, back in the day, a knife like this would have been like $100 or just under $100, maybe even a little over $100. So they've kind of brought the price back a little on the Damascus, and in my opinion, are making a much better overall product with this style of Damascus. So I'm a big fan of it, and I'm also a big fan of this action. I find that, so I had the first button lock Elementum 2, which was still the flipper and everything, but the first run that came out in like green G10, I noticed that the button lock on that was a little more stiff. I didn't quite have the smooth drop shutty action that I have on this one. So the action has improved. I don't know if they did that by design or if maybe I just, have one that has slightly better action. But this one is considerably more impressive from an action standpoint than my first button lock Elementum 2. So it's worth noting. Again, sometimes budget knives aren't always exactly one as the other, but they could have made a difference. I feel like there is a slight difference in spring tension here that's allowing the blade to drop a little more. But again, more than anything, it's just the simple, amazing look of that Damascus that really is the highlight of this piece. The carbon fiber overlay is good. And of course, you got that nice, perfectly recessed pocket clip. This is a budget banger. I do think it is. I mean, a budget banger, 8245. It's a great knife, always has been, always will be, in my opinion anyway. And phenomenal button lock action. Can't go wrong with it. The button lock Elementum 2 in carbon fiber. And now let's move on to, I'm kind of surprised to call this the highlight of the video, I think. It's a brand new model from a very renowned designer, and it's a smaller knife, so it's going to be a legal carry for pretty much everyone out there. And what we have is the Civivi Gordo, and this is one little slicey, thin beefer chunk of a knife. This is a very, very cool small carry. I'm a fan of this design. There's a couple things I don't love. We'll talk about that. But first, let's take a look at some overall specs on this guy. We have an overall length of 6.32 inches with a blade length coming in at 2.51 inches and a blade thickness at 120 thousandths. We're looking at D-tube steel with a drop point style blade. Some could call that maybe like a, I don't know, modified sheep's foot, maybe, or just a drop point. I don't know, you tell me. We have a handle length of 3.8 inches and a very, very nice hollow grind. We'll talk a little more about here in a second. Handle thickness at 390 thousandths, and you have a few options for handle material. We got micarta on this variant, and then there's also a G10 and wood with Damascus, which also has kind of that this style of Damascus with the nice core at the end. So I like that a whole lot. Liner locking mechanism with the user of a right hand only tip up carry. Sorry, lefties. We have a weight coming in at 2.76 ounces, designed by Peter Carey. Some of you may have already seen this if you know Peter Carey's design language. This definitely does look like a Peter Carey design, specifically with kind of the hole in the center and the little line going there. That did kind of reminisce of some Peter Carey design language. And a price coming in at $55.25 for this exact variant. And then the G10 variant is $52.95 and the Damascus variant is $74.50. So there you go, there's your prices. Let's do a couple quick size comparisons on this one because this is obviously a new one. Not a lot of people can relate it to something, but I'm going to give you a couple things to relate it to. And the best thing I have here is probably the Civivi Odium. The Odium is almost an exact match in terms of length. And then one more small knife to help put things into perspective. The amazing Civivi Baby Banter. Arguably the best small fifth pocket knife of all time. And as you can see, lines up a little short with them as expected. But there's your size comparisons. And now let's talk about this new one because there's one thing about this knife that really blows me away, and there's another thing that I'm really impressed with. Excuse me. One thing that I'm very impressed with is this grind. This is not that I didn't think Civivi was capable of a phenomenal hollow grind, but this is just, better than most. We are looking at 14 to 15 thousandths behind the edge, a rather high hollow grind, so you're going to have a very, very slicey blade here. This thing, it is a slicer in every word of the meaning slice. It's just, it's slicey as all get out. We have a very nice choil here that is big enough to use. You gotta kind of be careful. This is very good in this grip right here. I'm totally comfortable using the choil in this grip, but I would not move up here with my finger. That kind of carries my index a little more onto the blade. I don't really feel comfortable with this grip position, but back here, you are good because you're kind of pulling your index finger back a little, and it's really not touching the blade. I would use this with full confidence. And then also, you could always kind of go up here if you had to really kind of push and, do some type of more aggressive cutting. This also feels pretty good. So a lot of grip positions made possible by the blade shape with the choil and the kind of little cutout rounded area up here. Very, very nice blade shape. Very nice razor sharp tip. It's going to do some really good slicing for you. And one thing that I would like to change about this knife, and I'm not completely knocking the D2. $55 for D2 and what you're getting here is okay. But I would like to see 14C28N on this over D2. That would look a lot better to me for $55.25. Civivi and Sencut are kind of in this area to where I feel like more D2s on Sencuts for like the $45-ish range or $50 and under, which is really good for me. I feel like Civivi needs to stick to 14C Nitro V and keep D2 in the Sencut line. That just makes sense to me. But just my opinion. Still not a bad knife for $55. Not by any means. It's actually a really great knife for $55. I would just prefer to see 14C28 in place of D2 for a Civivi. Help kind of line things up better with the Sencut Civivi and Wii thing going on. But the handle feels pretty good. I gotta say, I do love a good Peter Carey design, but I'm not a fan of the hole. I really wish it was just a solid piece of micarta. I think it would look immensely better. Just my opinion, no disrespect, but yeah, I would rather that hole not be there. And the clip back here, well, I do like this clip. Civivi, good job. I do like this clip. I do wish the clip ramp was just a hair lower. Not a hot spot, but I feel like it's a little higher than absolutely necessary. But again, I'm not too bent out of shape about it. I still plan on carrying this knife and giving it some good use because like I said, I do like the ergos and I do like the looks of the clip and the character of the knife in general just really works with me. So a lot of good things, but I feel like, I know I'm kind of splitting hairs, but I feel like the ramp could be just a little lower, and I think that would make a pretty big difference, at least in my hand and how I hold it and where I feel it. I feel that ramp just a little more than I would prefer. But nice micarta, really nice fit and finish, as always, as you would expect of the Civivi. And then the action. That's what I'm blown away with. And this probably won't make sense to some people because, yes, all Civivis have great action. This is the smoothest small Civivi knife I've ever handled. It is immensely smoother than the Baby Banter. It is immensely smoother than the Civivi Odium. The flipper on this thing is absolutely perfect. The middle finger flick is amazing. And again, it falls shut. It falls shut so easily. It is the smoothest small Civivi ever made. And I was really surprised by that. When I pulled it out of the box and I flipped it, I was like, holy shnikes. Just very, very impressed with that. So phenomenal action. The regular thumb flick is just kind of okay for me. You can do it, but it's not nearly as good as the middle finger flick, which is so good. And then again, the flipper on this knife is just phenomenal. Nice push button action. You could light switch it or push button. Very, very good action on this. And two great knives dropping from Civivi today, guys. I definitely don't have any reason to say don't go after them if you like them. Really impressed with what Civivi's doing this year, as well as most of the budget brands. They're really putting on a show. Let me know what you guys think of these knives, as well as I believe there's a couple more knives on Civivi's drop today. I really hope you guys enjoyed this one. Hope you have a great rest of your day. And until the next one, I'm out.